Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. So, yeah, I took a break yesterday because on Sunday I felt bloated on Sunday. Um, my hormones, since I haven't hit that mark yet where I don't get my period, I haven't got my period yet, but I felt like when I was dealing with PMDD a long time ago before the J juice, I would have about 2 weeks worth of food cravings and bloatedness and all the irritability and the hormonal fluctuations, and it would be like a mess. So I only feel like the only hormonal fluctuations before I potentially get my period would be the cravings and the bloatedness. Not only water retention, but digestive poop retention, I guess. So, so I know I on Saturday, I think I ate some food on Saturday, some really good food. And then Sunday, I was just feeling so sluggish, like totally sluggish. And I didn't really feel like doing waterfalls. I just felt like just an day. So that's when I woke up and did a Facebook Live, which I didn't really like, so I deleted it. Um, but anyways, and so, but I was feeling major water retention. So what I did that day on Sunday night before I went to bed after eating some food was I drank like 2 cups of my J juice. Now I did it right after eating, so I wasn't planning to get waterfalls. The best time to get waterfalls with a J juice is to do it in the morning unless you happen to have like a graveyard schedule. And so when you wake up to go to work before your shift, you do the J juice. So anyways, so that whole night I was peeing out liquid that whole night. There was no waterfalls. It was just every 2 hours. Because I was bloated that day on Sunday. That whole day I was bloated. I felt like my belly was distended, and I was like, man, I look pregnant, but I'm not pregnant. And no, it was the fact that I had water retention because I have the hormones, that are kind of in flux because of potential period coming up. But no high blood pressure because I don't have any heart predispositions. So I was retaining water, but my vessels were clear and they were still doing what they were doing. But I was just retaining water, retaining poop. So when I finally did the 2 cups of the J juice, and then that whole night, every 2 hours, I was peeing out liquid every 2 hours. And it was clear. It wasn't yellow, it was clear. So I was releasing water. I also was drinking a lot of water too, right after drinking the 2 cups. So I drank about like a quart of like half of it was J juice, the other half was water. But I was releasing water every 2 hours. And then my stomach was down like yesterday. My stomach was down, but my husband was home yesterday, so I just stayed home with him. But but no, uh so I'm just like, wow, I could see now. And so that's what happens and so we've been focusing on the whole prostaglandin hormone and the water retention and high blood pressure, but that's only for people who have heart predispositions, who are on some kind of prostaglandin inhibitors that constrict the blood vessels. And so when you're on PGIs, which I'll call them PGIs, when you're on PGIs and maybe you don't have a heart issue, but maybe you will create and trigger one at some point, because that's inevitable. When you're taking prostaglandin inhibitors, it will inevitably constrict your blood vessels. I've never been that sick to where I've been constantly taking herbs or constantly taking any kind of prostaglandin inhibitors, like any kind of prescription medication or even over-the-counter medication. I barely take an aspirin, even way back when. Okay, so I didn't do a lot of prescription drugs or over-the-counter drugs or even herbs in my whole lifetime, so I've never created that predisposition for myself. Other people have those predispositions, or they've created that situation to where then they can't have any salt because the salt will then uh, well, it won't create the situation, but the salt, what does the salt do? Well, it forces the body to bring up water because you're dehydrated. Okay, and then when you have pre-existing conditions like in your heart, then you already have constricted blood vessels because you're not drinking enough water, as well as, well, it's not even because you're not drinking enough water because you have constricted blood vessels, and vice versa. They both play off each other. And then salt actually is your savior because it makes you retain the water, because it brings up the antidiuretic hormone. Okay. So it's like salt is your insurance policy. It creates edema. It's water retention. So the reason why salt affects people with heart issues is because they're not drinking enough water and they are taking medications that constrict their blood vessels. So if a person would drink a lot of water and they drink the jelly juice and take the salt, they would then not worry about having to retain the water. And that's the biggest thing, is that you got to drink water to release water, but not even just drinking water. I mean, I drank water when I was, going through my period stuff, but it still wouldn't release the water. Still wouldn't release the water retention. And so drinking water to stop retaining water isn't the answer either. Okay? Because there's so many things that happen at once. And the reason why people are drinking water to stop the high blood pressure is because they have high blood pressure. Okay? But if you're retaining water, drinking water is not necessarily going to help you. Okay, you've got to drink the J juice that will release the prostaglandins to then dilate your blood vessels, to then help you calibrate your hormones correctly. Okay, and so you have an antidiuretic hormone, you have adrenaline hormone, you have oxytocin hormone, you have all these different hormones, some of which I don't mention all of them because there's so many of them, and a lot of them are messed up. And when you have hormones, valves that turn on, that stay on, then that's when you have water retention and you have adrenaline issues or lack thereof. Some of your hormones get turned off. And so that's why people are such a mess when they're taking prescription drugs. So, this last couple weeks, man, yeah, I've been focusing a lot on the prostaglandin because it makes sense. Now, before I don't want to slam doctors. I really don't. Because, even though they've created the problem and perpetuated the problem, people don't know any better. They were taught only the doctor way. And so when they have been given a choice, even in between doctor visits, and they're given the choice, and they still choose to go that wrong direction, that doctor will be there to save them. And the ER doctors are the ones, the triage doctors are really the ones that I have an ultimate respect for, as well as those nurses. But it's the specialists where I have a hard time with. The nutritionists, the specialists, the homeopathics and naturopathics, the specialists, they're the ones that create these ongoing issues to where you have to go to a triage ER doctor at some point. And so, it's difficult to come from that perspective because we've been taught for such a long time that doctors are like the end all be all. But when you are actively inhibiting the prostaglandins, and then the number one killer of all men and women is heart disease, you see exactly who has perpetuated that problem. Not only academia, but your family doctor, because they know this at the patient level. They do know this. And some of them are very, very nice, okay? I mean, it's hard to slam doctors when they're like your family and your friends. But ask your family and your friend doctors. What do you know about the prostaglandins? What do you know about water retention? What do you know about all these different medications that inhibit that make a person be on a string of drugs? What do you have to say about that? When you're taking out an appendix, when you're taking out tonsils, which is the first line of defense in a child or an adult to help deal with being exposed to viruses, when you take those out, those viruses get in so easily without those first lines of defenses. Okay? And so if your tonsils are always inflamed, if your appendix is always inflamed, there's a reason why. You got constricted blood vessels, you have total anomalies, and you're not taking in the right chemistry. Okay? Because yeah, there's somebody tells you when your kid's always sick with tonsillitis, yeah, it's full of mucus because you've got to help your body somehow release the excess mucus, release the antibodies. That's the main thing about the J juice. Not only does it express the prostaglandins, so that way it dilates your blood vessels, but it helps release the excess antibodies, the excess mucus, the excess, what is it? The excess microbiome, viruses, parasites, protozoa, proteins, bacteria, and fungus. So it's not, the chili juice does so many different things, and we've only begun to scratch the surface of truly what the chili juice does, because there's so many involuntary mechanisms in your body that you don't even know what it's doing because you're not even aware of it, because it's just part of what your body does on an involuntary basis. You don't have control over it. So the stuff that you do have control over is what you know about, what you feel, okay? And at least you have 11 different systems. And so with your 11 different systems, there are aspects of your 11 different systems that you're not aware of what's going on. You just know that, okay, you have an issue with your circulatory system. You have an issue with your endocrine system, your digestive system, your circulatory system. All these different systems you have issues with, but you don't know every single mechanism and what capacity it holds and how it affects everything else. And so the stuff that I do know about, everything that's diagnosable out there, the chili juice can address everything that's diagnosable. I don't care what it is. It could be the most newest disease out there on the block, and the chili juice can address it. You know why? Because it's part of the 11 different systems. The chili juice does not discriminate. No, you're not an Arcturian or a reptilian or arachnoid or whatever it is. Someone say that you're some kind of alien, because those are the special people that the chili juice can't help, are the special aliens that are walking around our planet. Okay? They have their own group. And they talk about how special they are. They can't wait to go back to their planet when they die. I can't help them anyways, no matter what, because they're not living in reality. But the chili juice can help anyone with any type of predisposition, because the body only has 11 different systems. There's probably a billion different diseases that you can get from 11 different systems, with probably a billion different subsystems. And then they have their own subsystems and their own subsystems. And it's an infinite geometric circle or geometric pattern that it goes on infinitely, and it has no ending. Okay? The only ending is the limitations of how tall you are or how big you are or how much mass. Okay? And so, so chili juice can deal with whatever. It can deal with a COVID virus. Well, is it a cure for the COVID? Chili juice is not a cure. There are no cures in the chili juice world. Okay? Chili juice reconstructs you at the micro level. And you have to feel pain. You have to feel and heal. You can't be drugging yourself, constricting blood vessels, cutting off blood supply from parts of your body because you don't want to feel. And that's exactly what the medical holistic industry does. They cut off blood supply to the non-vital organs that have issues that they can't fix. If they can't cut off the blood supply, they'll take it out altogether. They'll take out your thyroid. They'll take out your appendix. They'll take out your tonsils. They'll take out even parts of your vital organs if they can't fix it. Now, you can call it life-saving. Yeah, at the 11th hour. If there's nothing else and they don't want to heal you at the micro level, the only option is to take it out. But that's what they do. They stagnate your body to where when you were maybe 50% alive, and your body was trying, well, not 50%, say you were 90% alive, and your body's going through an upgrade, and so you felt pain, and you were like, oh my God, I'm having a heart issue. But no, your body is going through an upgrade. And then you take more medication. Now you're only 80% alive, because that medication now has constricted blood vessels to some parts of your body, to where now you have deadened parts of your body. And so what the chili juice does, it wakes up that which has been put to sleep and constricted. The chili juice dilates your blood vessels so the blood can get to your freaking pineal gland that you have calcified your whole freaking life. through all of your practices of your pills, your powders, your cannabis, your supplements, your detoxes, your food avoidance, your discriminatory food issues, because you've been starving yourself your whole freaking life. Okay? The Jilly Juice will wake up every part that you have put to sleep, and which has the medical holistic industry has put to sleep. Now, the thing with the vaccines, just I'm going to mention this again, the vaccines bring up your prostaglandins. They activate your immune system. Some people don't realize how much damage they have done to their body until they get a vaccine, which is why you have one person will get a reaction to a vaccine, the same vaccine, and another person will not. Because if one person that did not get a reaction to that vaccine, they've already been exposed to it, they've already dealt with their predispositions in some way, and they've already adapted. The other person who got the adverse reactions got a clue that maybe they don't have this kind of system they think they had. And so that should tell you what your body needs to work on. So in a lot of ways, the vaccines and the Jilly Juice are a barometer, but the Jilly Juice will support your body and give you the nutrition to help regenerate at the micro level. So that way you never have to deal with that situation again unless you have a very aggressive virus like the COVID. Because I had headaches in the beginning of J-Juice. I had PMDD and maybe other predispositions I didn't even know about because I hardly ever went to the doctor. And so I had a few headaches in the beginning of the J-Juice. I had all the different yeast infections. I had the muscle pains, all the different stuff that people may experience when on the J-Juice in the beginning relative to their past, present, and future. But when I got exposed to this COVID, I had a whole new set of really deep, deep, deep symptoms, like that 6-day headache. And so my body was able to adapt to the prior environment prior to COVID. Now with this COVID-19, my body had to adapt to this COVID-19. But the only thing that was major that needed to upgrade was my neurological system, which is why my neurological system, my brain, the headache, was the one that had the major reaction the most. I had little bits of here and there being exposed to different strains of the virus because I'm already immune to the flu. I've been exposed to the flu, never had an ever symptom. But ever since January, I've been feeling all of the different mutations of this COVID. And the biggest one was that 6-day headache, and it was a stabbing headache. So I knew the blood got to parts of my brain on this side that it never got to before. So I opened up neural pathways, blood got to part of my body that then gave me even more mental clarity as far as just certain things I've been dealing with my whole life that I've been trying to, I don't know, make better or find a way to force a situation like a relationship that really was one-sided. And so sometimes it might take a very aggressive virus for you to get to the deep-seated issues that you guys have been harboring for years, ever since you were a baby. This COVID will bring up and force people to deal with something in the most ethical, most honest way. Because the COVID and the Jilly Juice, no matter what, either way, both COVID and the Jilly Juice is going to be a moment of truth for people. The COVID will be a moment of truth for people that have not taken care of their bodies correctly, and they'll deal with predispositions. But the COVID and the Jilly Juice will definitely make people move in a specific direction, a very good direction. That's going to be beneficial for not only them, but for the other person too, because that person also was fooling themselves into thinking there was a relationship when there wasn't. Because you can't have a one-sided relationship. You can't be the only one dictating to somebody what is going to be okay. No, it's a two-way street. So if one person allows another person to dictate a relationship, then that's not a good relationship no matter what, okay? So yes, the COVID-19 Jilly Juice is a force together that will definitely upgrade you to the next level. And so every single time I go through crazy, symptoms on my Jilly Juice journey, I get to another level of thinking. And so you saw all the stuff that I went through as far as my evolution from when I first thought there was candida to all the way now that it's not just candida. Candida is just like yeast, and yeast is just one component of the microbiome. Okay? You have viruses, you have bacteria, you have fungus, which is yeast, you have parasites, protozoa, proteins. Okay? Yeast and fungus is only one little aspect of the bigger picture. And so we only know about certain things because, like, certain parts of the microbiome because of the medical holistic industry, but there's a bigger picture that they don't tell you at the patient level because you only know of symptoms, and that's the only relationship you have is with the symptoms. And so then that's what they tell you and give you info regarding that part of your body is because it's a directly correlative to what you feel, and then you do your little research and then you're all happy. Okay? But there is a bigger picture that people don't talk about, which is the prostaglandin hormone, the prostaglandin inhibitors, what truly the prescription drugs and the holistic remedies do to people's blood vessels. Why is it that heart attacks is the number one reason why people die? It's heart attacks and strokes, okay? They're fucking up your heart with all of their prescription drugs and holistic remedies. It's not just the prescription drugs, it's the holistic remedies too, okay? Dr. Mercola, Dr. Tenpenny, all of their pills, powders, and supplements are just as bad as the prescription drug market, if not worse, because you're under a false sense of security. It's a safer thing over the prescription drugs. No, it's not. It's actually much worse because there's no regulation really, and people think it's safer because it's natural. Everything is natural. It's just what amounts and then what perception you have around them. So it's all about balance, and that's why we don't do any discrimination in food. We don't discriminate, in elements. We understand what makes up the biochemistry and what kind of chemistry will then align with the biochemistry. And then we act accordingly. We listen to indicators like our mucus. We understand that if you have food allergies, fine, stay away from that food for a minute, but eventually you'll go back to certain foods like Krista. She's able to eat potatoes without having crazy adverse reactions. She took herself from being so weak and so emaciated to looking like a healthy, beautiful woman. Okay, some of you have taken yourself out of that grave that you were on your way into. And now you are a beautiful, thriving woman, man, amazing people. And that's exactly who I want in this world, are people who take themselves from ground zero to where they are suffering. And even if they don't admit they're suffering, but they are suffering. And they totally just shine a light on themselves. And they finally pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. And they become this beautiful, enigmatic, just attractive force that gives people hope, that doesn't come from imbalance. Okay? And it gives people hope that they can take themselves out of that death trajectory. That's right. Eat a ton. Yeah, I thought that steaks were bad for me. No, steaks were never bad for me. I just had hormonal imbalances. And so every single time I ate a steak back before I, was able to really heal on the J juice, I would get like the PMDD symptoms because there were hormonal imbalances that were not fixed yet. Now I have to have a steak sometimes to give me the nutrients because my body's able to calibrate and I'm able to take in the food supply. But when your body's holding on to excess hormones and excess microbiome, then yeah, eating a steak or eating anything is going to put you over the edge because the body says, hey, I already have enough of that. I already have enough of that biochemistry, enough of that hormone. I can't take on another thing more. And that's where anaphylactic and allergies come from and adverse reactions to food because your body already is over capacity because you've been harboring and you've been stagnated in your digestive system for such a long time. Okay? So the whole J juice is to recalibrate your system, to release the excess, absorb what you need, go through the healing process, release the prostaglandins. Yeah, if you have heart issues, which you have constricted blood vessels, and you do the J juice, yeah, the salt's going to, it's going to activate your antidiuretic hormone, which is going to make you retain water, but eventually that will taper off. The swelling from the water swelling is going to eventually disappear. When I was back in 2016, if you saw a picture of me, like on my featured photos, a picture of that succession of 1987 all the way to 2020, if you see a picture of me in 2016, I was probably the most bloated you'd ever seen. okay? Because I was pretty fat back then. As far as I wasn't fat, but I was bloated. And that was from water retention, but I had no high blood pressure, but it was water retention. As soon as I got on the J juice, the first month, in probably like, I'd say I started in October, so in November, I took a picture of myself in November. And I think that was one of the first pictures in my featured photos. What year was that? Do I even have? Let me see. I'm going to look at my photos. Photos of you. Oh. Album. Okay. About. Wish I knew how to see featured photos of this, but that's okay. But there is a picture of me, and I'll figure out where that is. That's okay. Where I first took a picture and all of that water weight disappeared. Like my bloatedness disappeared. And so some of you who are extremely obese may not see that right away. It might, I don't know. But I was probably like maybe 130, 120, 140, who knows, pounds. So some of you are really, really, really obese. So that may take a while that you get to where you are releasing the excess and that your skin catches up. Because the skin still has to catch up. You don't want to release the water weight and shrink your fat cells, and your skin, your biggest extremity, your integumentary system doesn't catch up. So your integumentary system has to catch up with the release of the excess fat and the excess water, because the prostaglandins are in the fatty acids. You don't want to release too much fat because then you don't get the healing properties. So fat can be healing when it's mixed with the jelly juice. Okay? So if you have a lot of fat in your body, that's going to help you heal your body and recalibrate everything. So that's why you don't lose all the fat right away and just be a thing of skin. All right. So anyways, that's just, my musings for today. But yeah, eventually I'm going to write this next book. This book is coming out. It's going to give people the groundwork as far as sugar and salt and the microbiome and the jelly juice. And I don't go into too much detail about prostaglandins, but I do talk a little bit about salt, how it's not dehydrative and it's not triggering. It doesn't cause high blood pressure. Okay? And so I might say a little bit. I think it won't, yeah. It won't say it's dehydrative, and it won't. I have to look and see if the high blood pressure is in there. If it's not, I'm going to get my, because I'm already in the process of back and forth with my publisher. I might add that section about high blood pressure if I had it. I'll have to add that in there. High blood pressure book. But I won't go into so much detail, but in my next book, I'm going to focus on prostaglandins. I'm going to focus on the war on the male. I'm going to focus on the female, which is okay, but I think it's to the detriment of males. We need to learn how to have balance in our society. I'm going to focus on all the different patterns in nature and patterns in humans. And yeah. So I will figure out exactly my angle. But I think, do I already have a title for my next book? Oh, save yourself, don't play with yourself. Yeah. That, yes. The reproduction. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yep. So reproduction is a pattern in nature. So anyways, for a reason. So anyways, I'm thinking of an angle of my next book. But I had to lay the groundwork first with the microbiome and the salt and the sugar and the non-diet and the foods. That's right. And the whole discrimination too. I gotta write that down. Discrimination. Yeah. Discrimination is another pattern. And it happens at the food level first, and then it happens at the cultural community level. And so, yeah. So anyways, and I'll figure out those connections, the biological and societal connections to all of the things that we practice. But anyways, happy Tuesday. You guys have an amazing day. I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. And yeah. Take care. I'll talk to you later. Bye.